Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Wednesday, May the 14th, 2025, and today's topic it's going to be painting, but I'm going to paint a forest cottage scene. So I'll just call it painting a cottage. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use timers to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll start a 10-minute timer. So this will be, I'll post a link to this video. This is from yesterday. I did another, it's basically like a sketch, but it's painting. There's a lot of things to go over. It'll turn into somewhat of a series. But this raven, I'd been sketching ravens for a while. I like the way they look. So I was kind of inspired by this sketch, and then I just looked up some pictures. But today, so this is like a little pocket sketchbook that I'll do maybe more of a flip through, but basically I did videos of a lot of these to kind of get into, they're pretty fun to keep, like a pocket sketchbook, and then it was a way for me to get back into sketching like consistently. This was from a couple of years ago, and I did a series where I did this bridge, and basically the idea is how to take like a little, kind of like a thumbnail sketch or a quick sketch. It could be from location or from imagination or from reference or whatever, and turn it into something a little bit more finished. So I'll do this cottage right here. So that's what I'll put this on the screen, but that's what I'm going to look at like off to the side here. And I think that'll be useful. Maybe you're interested in like the painting. I'll go over like what I'm doing. Like this is mixed media basically, but it's all going to be like Sharpie markers. But yeah, just from yesterday's video, basically the same thing, but like the process might be a little different. So, and it's also, I'm still experimenting, but basically it's like these Sharpie paint markers, like regular color Sharpies. I just happen to have these, so that's why. For like this raven, I have like a metallic. There's a lot of different things. I like to experiment just because it keeps it interesting. So by the time I get to something like this, where it kind of like, now it's become like a sketchbook spread or a page, there's more of an idea. It'll still be an experiment as far as like color and painting. I mean, this is a way to get into it if you're interested in getting more into like color work or painting. Sometimes I like to use what I have, and also kind of limit stuff just so I can really understand the medium. So in this situation, I know it's going to be like a forest scene, so I'm just going to start with green. I'm going to go with obvious because I happen to have like these colors. There's not like a ton of colors, and so yeah, I'm going to go with something like kind of obvious. And then the other thing is, whenever you mix, so this is just experimenting here, when you mix the this with this, so like you apply the acrylic color and then like let it dry, it kind of gives you like this like the alcohol, so kind of gives you like a look, and you can layer it. And then I would approach it the way that I approach drawing, for example, so like the sketch and then the light and dark, and then the like the details. So that's kind of what happened here. The details are like the silver. So yeah, let's just get started. Yeah, I'm going to use that sketch, and you can sketch it out in pencil and stuff. There's just different approaches. You could even sketch it out with like a marker or like a lighter color if you want. I'm actually not even going to sketch it out. I'm just going to paint it and just use that as like the sketch. So I'm going to use something kind of light. I might have used this yesterday. Part of that is like the color harmony. So, and I'm also going to incorporate some of the like the composition. So part of this is just getting warmed up and like making marks. And the thing about like painting that makes it different than, let's say, like coloring something. So I consider these like painting rather than coloring. Coloring would be like having an ink drawing and then coloring it in, or even just drawing it out in pencil and like kind of coloring it in. There's a lot of overlap to it, but I think part of the difference is that with painting, the strokes matter. Like it's part of the look of it. And then the strokes sort of become, like if I do this kind of stroke. Like that's the drawing. I mean, these are just some things to sort of keep in mind. There's a lot of overlap. I mean, they all kind of go together as far as the drawing, the painting, and then like the color itself, which is like coloring. So yeah, those are just some things to keep in mind. So part of what's going on here is I am filling in like the background first of all, and then like I'm choosing this as kind of the part of that is like the negative space, you could call it that. But then let's say I get to like the cottage. So I'm going to, so this is like the drawing aspect of it, meaning like the perspective and like the forms. So in a way, this is like the negative space of the cottage. However, it's the positive space of like the painting, because the cottage is like the thing that I'm painting. Another thing would be, it's good to keep it loose, especially if you are painting. And if it's going to be the sketch, it's kind of a good way to just get into it and like just to kind of get an idea of the colors and stuff. So yeah, it's just different approaches. Like whenever I was just spontaneously painting, I especially wanted to be loose about it. But sometimes, yeah, you can start with the idea. You might have already an idea of what you wanted to paint. Kind of like with this. Like once I had the other ones, I sort of thought, okay, well, I'm going to go with this kind of theme. So this is basically the composition. Now this one I did go in like with black ink. If I did that with this, it would look like it goes with the subject here. It would look different. It would look more graphic. So in this one, I just want to do like the sketch, and the drawing is in there. Like how much you need the drawing is kind of up to you. Like with this raven, I just started painting it, but they can be a little tricky. I mean, I think animals can be tricky, and of course, if you don't draw them all the time, they can be a little tricky. So just to play around with color, just to kind of see, I want to see what it looks like how they interact. So you can see that as far as value is concerned, they're basically the same value. So this is what I was talking about in yesterday's video, where when I paint over it like this, like it doesn't change like the light and the dark. So basically you have the white of the paper, which is a color, and then you have like this green, which is a color. The value is the same, or like the brightness of it, and then the hue is basically green, but you have like kind of blue green and green. So that's kind of good to know, like how that looks. But yeah, that's the thing with painting, is that obviously color plays a part in the picture making. And then I also have this one, which will probably be darker. So let's just check that out. So I'm going to start with like the cottage, because I know that I want some contrast in this cottage. So it did make it darker. So that's just something to keep in mind. So now this becomes like the darkest part. And since I'm still sketching, I'm not going to like go too crazy with like the light and dark, because that's like the shading aspect of it. So these are just some things to keep in mind. And I just use these because they're convenient. I don't have that much space, and also I don't have like paint and stuff. I have acrylic paint, but I have to mix. Just anything that kind of gets in the way of me doing my daily sketching, I just stick with whatever I'm able to do consistently. It's like more important to me. So you'll see that, like, yeah, this is like a darker look. So I'm just going to use this as kind of a, because you can paint over it, but I'm going to use it as the, help me to detail this cottage here. So yeah, the white of the paper, or like the white, like that's, in this case, it's like the paper. I'm going to utilize that. And then the other thing is, yeah, like the strokes matter. Like that's part of it. Like right here. So just, I'm holding it pretty loosely. I'm not going to detail it right now. So that's like a sketch right there. And you could have done this like looking at something. In this case, I'm looking at the sketch, which I'll put up here just as a reminder to myself. And yeah, it doesn't have to look like this either. Like this was sort of also an experiment. I'm just going to stick with like these colors before I introduce like kind of another color scheme. Like this will be the color scheme, which is basically analogous, like green. So the other thing is, once it dries pretty quickly, and you can layer it. It'll look a little different, kind of like this, if you keep adding that paint. But I'm going to use a Sharpie, and you can kind of get, you'll get a different look. And yeah, it's good to just experiment. It doesn't always just act exactly the same. So you can get some blending if you use like a light color. You can get some blending effects like this. So that's one approach. So for example, like here, you can kind of blend it a little. You can use a lighter color. So maybe to introduce like the light. So maybe the light is, so I've got this like eggshell looking color. So I'm going to introduce a little bit of the light. I'm just going to go over like that green, and you'll notice that you can get a little bit of a warmer color and also blend these edges like this. And because it is color that we're using, like it has a look to it. Like the color does matter as far as like the focal point and look of it. So you can kind of get this look. Again, part of it is an experiment. And stuff that you learn in other sketches can be used for other sketches. So that's the beauty of a sketchbook. Part of it is just harmonizing like the page. So in today's video, the main thing for me is the sketch. I call this like a color sketch. I would call this getting into more of a finished painting, but it's still like a sketch. But that's the cool thing about sketching, is that you can do it with like color or ink, whatever. Like part of it is learning the medium that you're using. So you can paint over it. So for example, this right now, like this is like the darkest color, and you can go like I would push the values later. Like there's starting to be a little bit more like light and shadow going on. So I'm still working on like the sketch. So for example, if I'm still adding like to the composition, then I would call that like the sketch. But like there's starting to be light and shadow. And because it is paint, so some parts I want to leave sort of the white of the paper, but like for the most part the whole thing is going to get painted over. And if I can make the paint strokes look good, I will. This is actually not the darkest one, is it? Or maybe it is, I can't tell. But like, for example, in that sketch, there's like smoke. And I kind of covered it up. So I might have to like either leave that out or like paint it in. The next part would be, I'll probably do another video, but like the next stage would be the light and the dark. So basically, if I feel like, okay, like this is the sketch, meaning like, yeah, like the composition, like the shapes and stuff. If I'm happy with the shapes, the next thing would be like establishing the light and dark, but like maintaining like the shape of it. If I can, I'll leave it for tomorrow's video, but sometimes I really feel inspired to work on it. But that'll be it for today. I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine, and if you enjoy these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it, and until next time, keep on sketching.